So this, I think, is in relation to the review. So it's going back, Minister, and I know I've raised this a few times in relation to the NCSE programme and just the review in relation to that. And what we're coming across constantly is the continual discrimination of disadvantaged children under the allocation of hours through this programme. And if you can just make a statement on that, thanks.
Tara.
Thanks, Deputy, and we've discussed this on a number of occasions. So, as you're probably aware, I recently contracted Frontier Economics to undertake a review of the National Childcare Scheme in line with Section 26 of the Childcare Support Act. And in conducting that review, I asked the company to give consideration to a complaint that was made against the NCS. I think we discussed that our last set of questions concerning the application of a work-study test, which determines the number of subsidised hours of early learning and childcare a child may be eligible for under the scheme. I don't believe that the NCS, and in particular the work-study test, gives rise to discrimination in the way that you suggest, Deputy. Under the NCS, children are provided with access to subsidised early learning and childcare that is at a level necessary to support positive child development outcomes, regardless of whether parents are in work or study. Where parents are not engaged in work or study, the NCS subsidises up to 20 hours per week. Where parents are engaged in work or study, the NCS subsidises up to 45 hours per week. The definition of work or study is broad, covers all forms of work or study arrangements, full-time, part-time, week-on, week-off and zero-hour contracts. And moreover, the minimum hours required to engage in work or study to qualify for up to 45 hours per week is very low at just 2 hours per week. And the NCS also includes sponsorship arrangements that allows for additional support for vulnerable families where there is an identified need for early learning and childcare on the grounds of child development or child welfare. Already, external assessment by the OECD and the SRI point to a range of benefits of the National Childcare Scheme, including a reduction for families in the cost of early learning and childcare and an increase in family incomes, with the most disadvantaged families experiencing the greatest gain. However, I have asked Frontier Economics to extend their research to review the activity test, which I know to be a feature of early learning and childcare schemes in other jurisdictions. I've also asked the expert group convened to look at the new funding model to consider the issue of childcare services in areas of disadvantage as well.
Thanks, Minister. I'm actually, that was the crux of the situation, so I'm glad to hear you say that, because what happened was in May, actually, we raised this, and I do know I've raised it on a number of occasions, and following us raising it, I suppose, some services that had brought it to our attention contacted or tried to get in contact in relation to the review, and they were sort of led to believe that it was just this one-year review of the whole NCS, that it wasn't looking as well at this situation of potential disadvantage. And just to say it again, that the cohort of children that we're talking about are children who, you know, they're not necessarily going to come to the attention of TUSLA. They're sort of in an in-between category, I suppose, for want of better words, where they really do rely on their childcare service, on their earlier service for that hot meal, for the security. But, you know, it's sort of, and it's particularly really as well in relation to the after schools, and I know we've had that conversation, and I do think that a lot can be teased out through a review, but it's just that if you are now clarifying that this is being included in the review, I would welcome that.
Tara.
Yes, I specifically asked for this issue to be included in the review because whereas I'm confident that the NCS is designed in a way to lessen disadvantage, I'm also cognizant, having listened to yourself, but having met with childcare providers, particularly from, I suppose, areas of geographic disadvantage myself, they have raised concerns with me and I want to address those concerns. And as you know, I've done a number of things. We've engaged with TUSLA to enhance the application of the sponsorship arrangements, and I spoke directly to the Chief Executive to make sure sponsorship would be provided in a broad manner. In terms of information about how parents can access the higher number of hours, Solace, in conjunction with the ETBs, is providing better information in terms of how they can access these various courses that will allow them access the full 45 hours per week. I've made a commitment to review this particular issue in the context of Frontier Economics review of the NCS, but also that bigger piece, the funding group is looking at the issue of disadvantage in childcare facilities and how funding can be targeted to address that.
Thank you, Minister. Seachta function.
No, thanks, Minister. I do feel like that is basically what I was trying to get to, that I felt that actually it was kind of clarified in May, and then there seemed to be question marks in relation to it again, but you have made it very clear that this part will be part of the review, and I do welcome that. As I said, it's children who potentially will fall through the cracks, and that's what we're always trying to avoid. And particularly, and I say this regularly, I suppose, in relation to the early year settings and the childcare settings, that it's not just for parents. I know we all are guilty of that sometimes, of thinking childcare equals parents working, but it's actually in relation to the children themselves as well, and all of the various benefits from socialisation to everything, and that security and all that they learn. So I do welcome that, and I look forward to the review. That'll probably be our next question when we'll get the results, but I do welcome that for now. Thank you.
Margaret, Minister, to conclude.
Thanks, Deputy. Well, as you know, it's early learning in care, and we always have to keep the emphasis on the early learning. In terms of when the review, I would expect it in the last quarter of the year, both the review of the Childcare Act, but more important, well, I don't want to say more importantly, but as significantly, the report of the expert group is coming in at the final quarter of this year. I suppose that's something I've been speaking about a lot. I didn't initiate it, it was Minister Zappone who initiated that, but it is a really important group. It's very eminent experts in the area of childcare from here in Ireland, but internationally as well, and bringing to the government, in light of our commitment to double investment in early learning and care and school-age childcare by 2028, that's contained in First 5. This is the body that is going to show us how we can ensure that the extra money we're putting into gives us more services, gives us better quality, ensures that the workers in these services are paid appropriately, and ensures that parents aren't paying so much as well. So I really look forward to publishing that expert group report, and I'm sure we'll be engaging further on it once it's published.
Margaret, Inishig Bogarai.